right, we are live on Facebook. Welcome everyone. Sorry we had some technical issues there. My name is Jordan Bain. My guest tonight is Katlyn Boucher, and this is the podcast called Unveiling. Tonight we're going to be discussing developing a vision and what goes into developing a vision for your life. So, Kate, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Katlyn and her husband are founders of Renewal Academy, which is a healing center up in Lowell, Massachusetts that opened like a year and a half ago now, something.
Yeah, we got this office in November of last year.
Wonderful. So it's like a year now, basically.
Yeah.
So they're up there doing the same kind of work that we do down here at MMS Boston. And thank you again for coming on the show tonight. I'd love to hear you introduce yourself and we can learn a little bit about you.
Great. Thank you, Jordan, for having me on. So yeah, a little bit about me. So I grew up in Michigan, and I started out my career as a teacher, and I taught in Detroit. And it was interesting because as I was even coming out of college and moving into the workforce, I was already questioning, like, is this all that there is to life? And I would like see my friends, right, like starting to adult and talking about what like their jobs that they're going to take, out of college. And, and I saw myself with so much excitement, but at the same time, I had a hard time with just where things were, because, and as I started into teaching, I loved the work that I was doing, but then there was this like work, pay bills, repeat, work, pay bills, repeat. And I would feel myself get pretty wound up, like pretty tight throughout the work week, and then blow off my steam through like, partying with friends every weekend and, coming back and doing the whole thing again. And that kind of like in and out of my, of my week made it really exhausting. So honestly, it left me in this space where I kept seeking outside of myself for solace. And I would seek for solace out of, maybe having a cup of coffee will help me feel better about things. Maybe having a glass of wine can just calm me down. Right? So there was always something outside of me. Mm-hmm. And, when it came to relationships, I went through one abusive relationship. I went through another abusive relationship. And I was like, there's got to be something different that I could be doing. So when I was teaching in Detroit, that's when I was going to a therapist, and she happened to be a life activation practitioner. And she, and she also recommended the life activation and Empower Thyself to me. And I was at a low point of this like kind of performing in my life, but feeling this deep emptiness inside where I was like, whatever, yeah, sure, Empower Thyself sounds great. I could use some of that. And that was March of 2014. And my life has completely changed since then.
So in terms of your interaction with your vision, your direction, because that's like our theme for tonight. Mm-hmm. What was it that you saw then for yourself in your life? Like before you found mystery school, before you got on like a spiritual path, what was it that like you foresaw or had as a vision for your life? What was going on in your mind?
It's so funny that you say that, because I've been like reflecting on this a lot over the last week or so, because when I was working as a teacher, and then even afterwards, after I went through Empower Thyself, and I was like, okay, well, what are my next steps in my career or whatnot? I saw this path, and I saw this path where
Which path?
um, it was,
Like a
it
path for
was,
yourself, you mean?
yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
I felt like I had to make a choice because
Mm-hmm.
there was like one of two ways my life could go.
Mm-hmm.
And I really easily could see the one of, um, drinking a lot, being like a burden on my family,
Mm-hmm.
and creating a lot of like chaos and misery. Cause I was already starting to like see some of those like symptoms popping up in my family dynamic. And I was like, shoot.
So alcohol was like a part of that like conversation in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I have both sides of my family, we have alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
And so even like the dynamic in my family, you know, it's been something that's been so fascinating because it's like, even though there's not necessarily like the substance there, like the dynamics are still brewing underneath. And so, so I saw that, okay, well, what if I stepped back from alcohol? What would happen?
Mm-hmm.
What if I started to um, embrace healthy living? How would that shift things?
And this is all
Um,
around that time, like 6 years ago.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And and so then, it really took. So then, I started to, make those changes in my life. Even before I went to Empower Thyself, I could no longer smoke cigarettes or drink the way that I could because my body just physically wouldn't take on those toxins anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you feel like that was your like based on a decision you made emotionally or spiritually, or do you feel like it was literally like you just your body couldn't take it at all on a physical level?
um,
I'm just curious because we're talking about vision and life path, you know?
yeah, I feel like it was spiritual because I was seeking
Mm-hmm.
something greater, something more. And I felt like that was a way that, like my spirit guides were like you can't be doing this anymore. Um,
How did you
and
experience that guidance from your spirit guides? I mean, because I've had a bunch of mystery school healers and guides on the show. People are talking about their spirit guides, and the people watching this show. Some people might be like, "Oh my God, I talk to my spirit guides every day.
yeah.
That's my soul sister talking to my heart right there." And other people are like, "This is kind of crazy. They're talking about spirit guides. What the heck is that?" So maybe you just like explain what that connection is for you to make it
Totally.
more relatable or understandable for more people.
Totally. So I can say confidently now that like that was like, okay, that was my, my spirit guides. But back then, it just felt like this like nudge within
Hmm.
me. And then there was almost like this way that I could feel like the path, like I was like almost like shown, like if this is the next step you take, it's going to look like this.
Hmm.
But if you take this step over here, it'll look different. And I didn't actually know when I went through when I went through Empower Thyself. I didn't really know like what was on the other side of it, but I just knew that it wasn't going to be that.
How did you see those two steps? So one was like alcoholism,
Mm-hmm.
and one was something else, but you weren't sure what
Yeah,
that was. Okay.
yeah. And
I
I
just really
was like,
break this down so that it's really accessible to people, because when you're at
yeah,
like a turning point moment in your life, really being able to relate to the concrete details of someone else's story can save your life.
yeah,
Honestly, like someone
yeah,
can watch this episode tonight and be like, that episode saved my life
yeah,
because I saw myself in what Katlyn was saying, and I realized there's more, or I realized there's another way. Or maybe someone watching this episode has went through that 25 years ago, but they can still just relate.
yeah.
Right? So
Um,
you saw these two paths.
yeah. So I saw these two
One,
paths.
drinking, one,
Mm-hmm.
not drinking, but not being sure what
What?
else was going to
Yes.
unfold. Okay.
Yes. And it took, um, and so when I decided it's like there was almost like a leap, right there. It really was literally a leap of faith, and there was this choice of, you know, do I take a leap to commit to the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
or do I and like the alcohol, the codependency, the dysfunctional family dynamics, being a victim, right, being in misery.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what I'm going to commit to, or am I going to commit to something better.
Mm.
And I was like, I choose that door, please.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, but
What did you hope for with the
yeah,
something better? Like, what did you hope for? Because this isn't you have a vision episode. This is developing a vision episode.
yes,
So
yeah.
I want to know what you thought was on the other side of the door. If you remember, if you can share it. Maybe it's like
Do
off to the mists of time.
no, I do, and it's so wild. Like, I feel like I just need to you know, like even building up this episode, right? Like I could feel like my nerves, because like this is a part of like my story that like I haven't really shared much, because this is such an internal process of like that tipping point, when I chose.
Right.
So you're asking really great questions that I actually get to answer. So this is really exciting.
Please answer.
Yeah.
Please answer.
So so when it was the something else option, right? I remember praying a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember, just having like honestly just like talking to myself, or like journaling about like what would I want my life to be like, because down this path too, I also committed to like Murphy's Law right down here, and I had seen so many times how I had created Murphy's Law to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute, if that's the case, can I make other things happen that are like for the better of my life?
Mm-hmm. So you're always
And
attracting worst case scenarios before?
I was attracting a lot of, I mean, there was like luck, right, in my life, but I was also attracting like the drama and
Mm.
like the worst case scenarios. And I loved talking about it because it was just, right, that was like part of my like entertainment, for
Mm.
myself and for my friend group. And,
Right.
like, guess how this got even worse, right? Let me tell you about this. Yeah.
Well, they always say
And
misery loves company. So
sure does.
yeah.
Um, so I started to wonder about, if I could, you know, like create these instances then for myself, then, and it's like, and even then, right, it's like my life was still, I still loved aspects of my life, right? It wasn't like necessarily all bad, right? Because we can't really throw a big cloak over things, but um, but that's part of the emptiness that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I were to, so when I looked over here and I said, okay, great, I think I can make something different. And so, after Empower Thyself, I started, first of all, sanctuary meditation like changed my life, because I could find this connection, this like safe, secure, consistent connection with my higher self. And so I wasn't grabbing for connection outside of me all the time, like I was before. Um, and and then I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna like, figure out the rest of my life, but I knew that I needed to continue, unfolding and figuring out who I was, right? Know thyself, and to serve others. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when we think about that time and that vision that started to come forward of, knowing that there's a way and you want to serve others, what's unfolded since then? Like, what did that look like the first few months as you started to decide? You decided at some point, right?
I did.
At some point you made it, like you had the vision, you made a decision. What happened next?
Um, I I knew that if I wanted to really make this change happen, that I needed to leave my home state.
Mm.
I had to like leave the nest. I had to move. Um, and so so I did. Um, and funnily enough, I did actually move into like my parents' home, which was in Western New York at the time. Um, and and I remember I was talking to my guide, Barb Segura, and I was like, what's the next class I can take? What's the next class I can take? What's the next class I can take? Because I just, it was like every single class that I took in the mystery school helped me to unravel
Hmm.
more of what was keeping me held up into myself.
Mhm.
And every class helped me to like keep developing what that vision is for my life that I couldn't fully see.
Hmm.
So I got myself to Healers Academy as fast as I could. You know, God bless my parents. I love them so much because they actually covered for me to go to Healers Academy because they were like, you should go to Healers Academy so you can be healed. And I was like, sure, great, okay, whatever, just like gets me there. You know, in Healers Academy, you know, it's like there's this, you know, it's like learning who you learn about yourself through the process of serving others. And if it's like, if that's the case, then there has to be a level of acceptance and love that I have for myself.
Mhm.
And the life that I was living didn't reflect that. So I had to make a lot of changes, like internally.
Mhm.
Um, and after Healers Academy, you know, it's like I
So
started.
let's go back though to that vision though,
Yeah.
because so that, you know, you got initiated in March. Big
Mhm.
changes, new commitment. I have to leave my home state. I have to leave, like, I presume probably the job that you were working. If you usually when you move states, you don't stay in the same job. I mean,
Nope.
nowadays with COVID, maybe you do because you can
Because
do
everything's remote.
Zoom, but
Yeah.
especially if you're a teacher, right? So, um, what was that between getting initiated and doing Healers Academy? There was this like 6 month time period or 7 month time period, whatever that is,
Yeah.
from March to October or November. And what what was that next turning point in your vision where you started to look at service, where you started to look at, because that's a leap for a lot of people, I think, to go from like, hey, there's a way out of addiction, codependency, and drama.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But then to say, I want to do service to other people. What was that transition for you? Like, maybe I know you said a little bit about it. Maybe you can say more about that, because these turning point moments and decisions are, to me, like half the vision is
Yeah.
how you got where you are now. How did the vision happen?
Yeah.
Because the vision on the wall up on a plaque is like not nearly as cool as the story.
No.
How you got to the vision.
No. Um, you know, in between Empower Thyself and Healers Academy, um, I I changed like who I hung out with completely. You know, and that's because, you know, I felt like there was so much change that was happening so fast with how I communicated differently to to myself and to others around me. Um, you know, because I, even after Empower Thyself, I was just feeling this awe and love for, you know, for life and for the world already. And I was like, whoa, okay. So, you know, I wanted to be around others that were like right there, like, you know, wanting to enjoy life. Um, you know, and, you know, it's hard to articulate a point that it was like for sure. Um, you know, I think it probably was when it's probably when I was actually in Sacred Geometry 2 class with which is the crystal healing um, class, where we learn how to be a crystal healer and, you know, crystal gridding. And you know, I remember, you know, Barb was talking about, you know, how you can, you know, like how you like set up your space for your clients, you know, how you know, how you work with them, how you you know, and it was like almost like that walking through that, like that started to open up that vision for me of being like, oh yeah, I would really like to provide that, right? Like I would really like to have a space where people can like come in and feel, feel this light and feel hope, and be able to, receive a healing service that, can shift their life. And I saw that when I was like working with people in the class, and I was like, seeing how people had transformed across the board.
Mm.
And that kind of got me in on healing, of being like, okay, especially, with the lineage, because these sessions and these activations work.
Mm.
And they worked differently on everyone, but it met them. And I was like, that's just the crystal healings, like, okay, great. Like, what else is there? Yeah. And that's when it's really piqued my interest of, how else can I help others, step into themselves more?
It's really fascinating. So just by hearing someone, your guide, Barb, talking about the process of like taking a client in your door, sitting them down, talking to them, offering them a healing session, doing a healing session, something like woke up in
Yeah.
your awareness of like, oh, I actually would like to do that. And as that vision, unfolded, and then you went to healers, what came next? Like what, because every hero's journey has like the vision is set, and then you
Yep.
go down into, the pits of hell to discover what's stopping you from your
Yeah.
vision, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to go into the gory details and all. We don't need to see all the blood tonight, but what happened next after that?
After Healers Academy, so so many people who like have talked to me throughout the last couple of years has probably heard this part of the story of my hero's journey. But I came out of Healers Academy, and there was this I knew that I was going to need a team. I was going to need a partner in this work. And so I started to get really clear indications, and like the clarity was like, you're going to like, move in with your husband in the next 6 months. He's already in your life. And I was like, okay. Oh, sure. Okay, great. And I actually thought it was like a family friend. I had no idea that it was going to be Brandon.
Is he watching you now?
I don't know. He
Maybe.
might be. He might be. But he knows that, he's heard me tell this story so many times. But really it's like, again, like, so that's kind of like the plaque, right? So like behind that point was that, I started to break down the difference between the feminine and the masculine, and
Mm-hmm.
how it's presented in society versus the divine feminine and the divine masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so it's like, so like the having a partner on the path, like kind of came in at the same time as I was like unraveling that and learning, how to intertwine the divine feminine, divine masculine within myself. And which brought me to this point that was incredibly difficult, because I had been in at least one narcissistic relationship. And I remember having a point where, I was praying and journaling, because if there's, because I always claimed to be the victim every single time. I was blameless in every situation. It's so perfect, right? Like, yeah. And I was getting a little tired of that, right? I was getting tired of like, right, of like being blameless. I was like, can I just do something, right? Can I do something? Yes, I can. So I'm looking into victimhood
Mm-hmm.
and also like what's causing this like narcissism, right? Because I had been in, definitely one, little like kind of two of those relationships. And I was like, I can't, right? Because I'm getting the ping for like, you're going to be with your, you're going to find your husband. And I'm like, I really can't have that dynamic happening anymore. I need to be really done with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember there was a night when I was uh, just a mess, just like bawling my eyes out because I realized that, you know, if I'm the victim, right? It's like everything's in polarity. So if I can be the victim, then I can also be the abuser. And I went through, and it was like this flood of memories and like these past relationships where like I had flipped and I could see how he could have perceived me as even being his abuser. And I was like, and like that wave of humility, but was so great. But it also brought me so much forgiveness because then I could finally start to move on. Because then it wasn't just something that happened to me and I had no control over it. And, I was like, okay, so, how do I break out of that? How do I make sure that doesn't happen anymore? And these were actually like conversations that Brandon and I were having back and forth because we were talking back and forth between, what was, how he and I had each expressed the imbalances of the masculine and feminine in each of our relationships before our friendship at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was in those conversations that, and being able to like hold space, right, for one another as we're going through this. So, that helped me to really clean up, really clean up my act.
Mm.
Yeah. Because I didn't want to be the cause. I didn't want to be the cause of, even as a victim, like you're still at cause.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to be at cause in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then it was another one of those like, well, do you want to keep carrying on like this? Or choose a different way? So I was frankly just tired of the other way. And I'm even, I'm still I'm still unraveling, right, all of the underbelly, right, of that decision. But, but overall, like, I don't have that dynamic anymore in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And for 20 some odd years, I just couldn't really get myself out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Most women who get involved with a narcissistic relationship either stay in it or they don't survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to have gotten out safely and then been able to rebuild my life and then carry into a relationship with none of that is it's deeply profound for me. I never thought that I would have, the marriage, but also the family dynamics that I have now.
Mm.
Because, I kept focused on, what it's like, what else can I do to help myself? What else can I do to help others? How can I help, shift my life? Because I
Mm-hmm.
knew that it could happen. And it happens in, throughout the classes and the healings in the mystery school. So easily, say easily, but like, but like
Challenge.
sometimes it's really challenging. But I guess I say easily because it's like, it's like instead of having, bumping up against the same wall all the time, there's it's like there's a way with this lineage where you can look at things differently because the light pours in and allows you, as you shift your focus, right? And it's like these are the things, like in developing a vision, it's like you can't see if the lights aren't on. So if you have a vision, that means it's like shifting your focus quite literally to what do you not want? What do you want? Okay, so what do you want? Okay, so now what do you want?
Mm.
And
You can actually see the option.
you can actually see the option.
Mm-hmm. And the
Yeah.
option in this case is more light. But of course, it plays out totally differently for each person. But in each moment of that time,
Yeah.
yeah. So as you come toward present time, what have been some of your major steps as your visions evolved?
So some of my major steps have been like metrics, a bit of like metrics in my how I want my family dynamic to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Metrics in how I want to be serving others.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to think about those things, right? Reflect on them and meditate on them. And and this last year my mom went through Kabbalah with me, and that has been so deeply profound for my family. And for my mom and I. Our relationship is completely different. And when it comes to my service, like this center, like literally we signed the keys over for it, the day before I went for guide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that now I would say, how it kind of shows up when I'm developing my vision is I look at it with, what do I truly want? And there's like a myriad of type of whether it's healing work or shifting my focus, or even bringing in magic into things. It's like, how do I approach this from all these different layers? Because at this point in my life, it's I work with the fact that I'm a multidimensional being, so I can't approach it from just one angle. I need to take all these different angles to it, to be able to bring things down. And and oftentimes I see myself like I kind of like step away, and I have to go into meditation and take that take that like cocooning time while things are percolating, and just allow them to have their season, and then come back out with it, and it'll be birthed. And that's like how this healing space happened. So it's a different process, but I see that it's
Like what you had before, you mean? Or say more about different? Like how is that birthing seasonal, going inside? But because I think there's probably ways that like most people can sort of relate to that, but then I think you and I know as initiates that that happens it happens so much faster,
yeah.
so much more frequently. Like we're always dying and being reborn and dying and being reborn. So maybe you can share a little window into that.
Um, yeah. So, so it's different now because I have more ways of working with the energy and bringing it into manifestation.
Hmm.
So that's how, like brass tacks, how it's different.
Hmm.
Um, and for example, like with this space, I had put it into when we started this last Kabbalah tree. I put it into my vision board, and I worked with my tree. One, to become a guide, and two, to become to have a healing space.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like percolating over a few months in that regard. But I was still like, feeding it, feeding that through, through meditation and prayer and journaling, and ritual. But then when it came time to it, it's like, it's kind of like we're sort of like in labor, right, with this. And, and it was, it was like getting really, really clear. Okay, like these are the things that I need. I need it to be, it's like, square footage, right, for the right price in the right location. And and it was probably, it was a bit of a back and forth over the course of like a couple of days. And and so I could, you know I would go into meditation and get a little clearer about it. Brandon would find something, like on Craigslist or something, right, and bring it to me, and I was like, okay, no, that's not the case. And he would go to meditation about it and come back out, okay, and then he would find, and then he found something else, and I was like, nope, that's not quite it. And it happened 3 times, and on the third time we found this place.
Hmm.
And so, what's interesting now is that there's this way that I've noticed, as I've progressed in the path, where in the mystery school, where there can be this, okay, well, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like an offer, right? Like a, what do you want? And I go, okay, I would like, I think this, it's
The
okay,
universe
great.
puts that out on your platter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I can say, okay, I want this. Um, and then and then like, this is also like the work that I have with, with my tree, right? With working in Kabbalah. This is why I've been taking Kabbalah, almost every time it's been offered over the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
um, because of that way that, I can also find alignment with when those things are offered, that I could say, okay, well, um, yes, I'd like that, but also what's everything around that I need to work on so that that can come into manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're almost at the end of our time here. What's next in your vision?
um,
What's the process right now? Let's say that, because maybe sometimes it's not always great to share your vision before it happens, right?
no, and that's something.
Spoil the energy when you share it with people
That's
who are
right. They're right.
there for it, who aren't really necessarily intimate in your life with you. Sometimes we need to even share it and incubate it, before from even the most intimate people in our life, before we're really ready to spread it out. So maybe you don't share what the next steps are in your vision, but maybe your process now,
Um,
the 2-minute version.
I know, right? My process now is so my process now is a bit of it's like watching things unfolding. And as things are unfolding, it's like, do you see how beautiful things are? Do you see
Hmm.
how beautiful things are? Do you see how beautiful things are? And I'm like, okay. So um, so I think that, at this point, God, source, universe is showing me how I can even dream bigger.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super cool. Well, we are totally out of time here, even with our technical difficulties earlier. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on tonight, Katlyn. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It's been such a fun conversation. It always goes so fast. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll do this again sometime in the next year and bring you back on, or bring you and Brandon on together. We'll have
Oh my
another
gosh, that'd be hilarious.
totally different topic.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Again, my name is Jordan Bain. This is a podcast called Unveiling, and we'll be back next week with a very special guest, the founder of the Modern Mystery School, founder Gunny Goodnison. We're going to be talking about his life as a boy growing up in Iceland and how he found the mystery school for the first time. So that is going to be a super special treat. That's going to be next Tuesday in the evening. We're probably going to go live around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So stay tuned to our email list and to our Facebook and Instagram for more updates on that. But check us out live next Tuesday, November 27th, October, not November yet, October 27th for that podcast with founder of the Modern Mystery School, founder Gunny Goodnison. Thanks again, Katlyn. Have a great night. We'll see you all next
Thanks,
week.
Jordan.
Take care.
Bye.